Well, hello everyone. This is DC with the DC Capstone Report. It's great to be back with you live this week for another football podcast on Alabama football. It's always great to be back, but especially great this week. That means we've moved on in the college football playoff championship. Today on the podcast, in the first segment, we're going to review the game against Notre Dame. In our second segment, we're going to talk about our standout players of the game. In our third and final segment, we're going to preview the upcoming national championship game against the Ohio State Buckeyes.
You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at Tide100.9.com.
Well, it's great to be back on the podcast this week for another podcast on Alabama football. What a great game we had in the college football semifinal game against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. In this first segment, we're going to review that game, and just overall, I just thought it was a great game for the University of Alabama football team. I thought they put together, pretty much on offense, one of the best game plans I've seen. The play calling was good by Coach Sarkisian. The play from our big three was really good. We had great passing, we had great receiving, and great rushing, and our line did a really good job. And going into the game, the discussion was how was Chris Owens going to do in place of the injured Landon Dickerson. And I think Chris Owens did a fantastic job of blocking. Now, there was a couple of times where the Notre Dame lineman got past him or caused some problems, but overall I thought he did a really good job on such a big stage to filling in for Landon Dickerson. But he's a redshirt senior. He's been in the program a long time. I didn't expect anything less from him than that. So just really pleased of our line play. Really pleased with the blocking of our tight ends. I thought they did a really good job to get the run game going. Overall on offense, thought we really played a good game. Alabama won the game 31-14. And I thought holding the Irish to 14 points, 14 points, 7 points in the second quarter and 7 points in the fourth quarter, held them to 0 points in the first and third quarters. So, really impressed with our defense and the way they played. And when you look at the defensive side of the ball, Alabama really did a good job of stopping a running attack. Notre Dame loves to run the ball. Their game plan coming in was to run the ball, take some time off the clock early on, and limit the touches by Alabama's exciting offense and try to keep the playmakers off the field. Well, Alabama did a good job early on getting up, scoring in the first quarter, getting a 14-0 lead, scoring another 7 points in the second quarter on offense, having a 21-7 lead at halftime. And that really never materialized for them to be able to get the air out of the ball, so to speak. They were to have the time of possession, really won the time of possession battle in the first half, but Alabama scored so quickly that it really defeated the purpose of Notre Dame's ball control offense. And they have some rushers on their team that they rely on to get some 100-yard rushers, and their running back didn't cross the 100-yard mark in this. He was limited to 64 yards on 16 carries. The quarterback Ian Book that we talked about that might be able to extend plays on third down and might have some rushing yards. He had 55 yards, but on 15 carries, both of them had their lone touchdowns, their rushing touchdowns. So I thought overall our defense really did a good job of holding the Notre Dame offense in check. Special teams, we did a good job of punting the ball. We were good on kick coverage. The really first play of the game when we kicked off, and just a great play by Josh Jobe going downfield, really set the tone on a tremendous hit. And if you'll check your stats, I don't believe that they ran another kickback all day. I think they called a fair catch on the rest of them. So I think our special teams did good. Will Reichard remained perfect on the season, kicking a field goal late in the fourth quarter to really put icing on the 31-14 victory for Alabama. So it was on a big stage. It was the college football semifinal. You had to win that game to get to the next game, and really thought Alabama did a good job overall. So overall, good victory for the Tide, and that caused them to be able to move on to the championship game. In order to do that, we had some really good performances. We're going to look at those standout performances in the second segment here on the podcast today. Thank you all for listening. Well, we come back to the second segment. This is our standout players of the game segment. We've been doing this all year, looking at our standout players of the game. First, we're going to start on offense. This is the game we just played against Notre Dame, and I got to give credit to the 3 stars on offense, and that is Mac Jones, Devonta Smith, and Najee Harris. They showed up in this game big time, and they were the difference makers in this game on offense. I know our offensive line played well. I've talked a little bit about them in Landon Dickerson's absence. I think Alex Leatherwood, Deontay Brown, Emil Akior, and Chris Owens all stepped up their game in this game. I think the tight ends played well. But basically it came down to those big 3, and the big 3 really did a good job. So let's start with Mac Jones. Mac Jones was 25 of 30 for 297 yards, just a hair under 300 yards, and he had 4 touchdown passes. Today, Mac Jones was awarded the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award as the best quarterback in the college football subdivision today. So I just think he didn't do anything in that game to disappoint. Did a really good job, made some great throws. Some of the throws that he were incompletions were throws he threw a couple of balls away when he was pressured, and he had a couple of drop balls. So really, he was almost perfect in passing at 25 of 30 for 4 touchdowns. Couldn't ask for a better job by Mac Jones on a big stage like this college football semifinal. And it seemed like when Notre Dame would want him to pass, he just passed perfectly and threaded the needle. When they were trying to cover the run, he knew when to pass the ball. When they were covering the pass, he knew when to run the ball and get us in the right place on those RPOs. So overall, I think Mac Jones did a tremendous job in this game. The secondly goes to Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris had probably his signature move, the best run of the season for him. I think over a 50-yard run, his longest run of the season. And that was the hurdle move that he made there. It was on every highlight reel that happened. He had 15 carries for 125 yards. I thought he just did a great job running the ball, moving the ball up and down the field. Averaged 8.3 yards a carry. So Najee Harris, again, I think he's going to be the shoe-in winner for the Doak Walker Award when it comes out later today or later this week. I really believe that he should be the one to win. He's the best running back I can tell in the nation right now, and I really think he had a really good game in this particular game against Notre Dame. And third and final is the one that everybody's calling the best player in college football, and that is Devonta Smith, wide out. In my opinion, the best wide receiver ever to come through the University of Alabama. I know there's a lot of debate out there with Julio Jones and Amari Cooper and Don Hudson and Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy and just Calvin Ridley. There's a lot of names out there that are good, but I don't think any better than Devonta Smith, and he just proved it in this game. He had 7 receptions for 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. I just think that he was stellar in this game. He's already won the College Football AP Football Player of the Year award, and tomorrow night, in my opinion, he will win the Heisman going away. I think it's his year. I think he'll become the first wide receiver since 1991 when Desmond Howard, a wide receiver from Michigan, younger people may know him from his on game day right now as an analyst, but in 1991 he was a great playmaker for the Michigan Wolverines, and Desmond Howard won the Heisman Trophy. And so I think that Devonta Smith will be the first wide receiver since Desmond Howard in 1991 to win the Heisman Trophy. He's that good, folks. He, in my opinion, the best player in college football. So the big 3 get my standout players of the game on offense. That's Mac Jones, Najee Harris, and Devonta Smith. I have to throw in here a little honorable mention, though. I don't usually do this, but there was a play that Devonta Smith scored a touchdown on that John Mechie blocked his man so much. And if you can, go back and watch it. It's the play, the little wheel route out of the backfield, and Devonta Smith is running down the left side, and you pick up John Mechie, and he blocks his man all the way to the bus, is what I said on Twitter in a reference to the Blindside movie. But he blocked his man all the way out of the picture frame, and Devonta Smith goes in the end zone for a touchdown. If you keep watching and let the tape run a little bit longer, you'll see Devonta Smith pointing to John Mechie, appreciating his blocking efforts on that play. So just an honorable mention for John Mechie for that one block that he had in the game. Now let's go over to the defensive side of the ball. Everybody thought we might struggle on defense against the this Notre Dame defensive team, and we didn't. We didn't struggle much. Held them to 14 points, 7 in the second quarter and 7 in the fourth quarter. And Alabama made an adjustment in this game. Now, 2 adjustments that was made in this game. One had to be made because Malachi Moore got nicked up, injured in practice. He was day-to-day leading up. He tried to play and just couldn't make it. It was a game-time decision that Coach Saban held him out, and Brian Branch got the start as the other freshman got the start in this game. But another kind of behind-the-scenes move, they've been jockeying for position all year, and that's Daniel Wright and Demarco Hellens. In this game, Demarco Hellens got the start. And Demarco Hellens at safety did not disappoint in this game. I think he was a way that really solidified this defense. He was the reason that this defense was able to really put the pressure on the Notre Dame run game. He came up in run support and made several tackles. He had 6 unassisted tackles and 6 assists for 12 total tackles, and he had a sack on the quarterback. So Demarco Hellens is one of my defensive standout players of the game. Just give him a nod. He gets the starting job there late in the season on a big stage, and he doesn't disappoint. Goes in, does a really good job for defense for 12 tackles, 6 unassisted tackles. So Christian Barmore is my second standout player of the game, and you know how much I love Christian Barmore, but he really put the pressure on the quarterback in this game. He made Ian Book uneasy on several attempts. He had 1 sack, he had 4 tackles and 1 assist for a total of 5 tackles. But if you look, PFF commenter was talking about his pressures, and they say that in this game, 20% of the time that the quarterback dropped back, he was pressured by Christian Barmore. That's unheard of. It's really good. He has a great motor, great running motor on him at all times, and he did a fantastic job in this game. So my second standout player of the game on defense is Christian Barmore. Third standout player of the game on defense has to be Will Anderson Jr. He stepped up again, shows his athleticism. He gets better and better every game, folks, and they had some great tackles. Notre Dame has a offensive line that is vying with our offensive line in a duel for that Joe Moore Award as the best offensive line in the country. And so they had a great tackle that was playing against Will Anderson Jr., and he didn't record any sacks in this game, but he had 6 unassisted tackles. He had great run support. He had great keeping Ian Book from extending plays on 3rd down. He had a great job of pressuring the quarterback and pushing the pocket, which gave Demarco Hellens and Christian Barmore opportunities, and Christian Harris to make some pressures on the quarterback as well. So I just really believe that Will Anderson Jr. is coming into his own as a freshman, and he was another third standout player of the game on defense. And so finally, the standout player of the game that you have to give on defense has to be Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain had 2 tackles and 1 assist, but the fact that they will not throw the ball his way tells you how great of a quarterback he is. He did a great job in this game. He won the defensive player of the game. I failed to mention that Devonta Smith won the offensive player of the game, but Patrick Surtain won the defensive player of the game. And the commenters, the commenters on this game had a really good understanding. They said, hey, you don't see him much because he doesn't get thrown the ball to it. They don't throw to his side. They don't want to throw to his side because they know how great of a cornerback he is. So Patrick Surtain is another defensive standout player of the game. So my standout players of the game this week against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish on offense were Mac Jones, Najee Harris, and Devonta Smith. And on defense, Demarco Hellens, Christian Barmore, Will Anderson Jr., and Patrick Surtain. Well, in the third and final segment, it's time to talk about the game that we've all been looking forward to since spring training began. That is the national championship game. It's been a goal. It's been written down. It's a goal to get to the national championship, get back to the national championship, and win another national championship at the University of Alabama, which matched up against a really, really good opponent in Ohio State Buckeyes. I know the Clemson game, it showed Ohio State, in my opinion, was the better team. They were better on offense. They were better on defense. Watched that game from start to finish. And I think that, I hate to say it, but I think Dabo Swinney really gave them a lot of fodder, a lot of bulletin board material early on, and they played with a chip on their shoulder. And I don't expect anything less from them as they come against Alabama. Alabama is the number one team, undefeated team. Ohio State comes in undefeated. There's been a knock on them in the press and other commentators about them not playing enough games to get into the playoffs. And even Nick Saban had them ranked number 5, just below Texas A&M. So I think there's going to be plenty of bulletin board material in this game about being the underdog and being that David versus Goliath type thing. But when it comes down to it, these two teams, Alabama and Ohio State, match up well against each other. I expect them to play their best game, and I expect them to get Alabama's best game. And truthfully, Ohio State is built a lot like Alabama. They have a lot of playmakers at running back, at quarterback, and at wide receiver. Alabama has the same thing. They have a lot of playmakers on defense at linebacker and in the secondary and on the defensive line. They do a good job. So watching this game for Alabama and Ohio State to be a close game. I don't expect this to be a blowout. I really don't. I expect it to be a close game. I expect Alabama to get up on them, and I expect Ohio State to stay in the game, the entire game. The last time these two played in the 2014 semifinal game, it was a 42-35 game. Ohio State won it. Ezekiel Elliott ran all over Alabama. Alabama kept up as best they could. But I think this game is going to be similar to that game. But in this situation, I believe Alabama has the upper hand because I think Alabama's offense is just so explosive and it's hard to contain. I know they're going to try to do everything they can, but Alabama has proven that when you do everything you can to take away the pass explosive plays, we run the ball. When you do everything you can to take away the running ball, we throw the ball. So if Alabama can play in this game, my keys to this game is to play mistake-free football. In other words, limit your turnovers and limit your penalties. That's the number one thing Alabama's got to do. They got to be ready for the game, and they got to go in like another business trip and limit our turnovers and limit our mistakes. The second thing that we're going to have to do is the line play on both sides of the ball is going to have to play physical. Ohio State plays very physical. They have a physical offensive line. They have a physical defensive line. We're going to have to play physical on both sides of the ball when we're on offense and when we're on defense to match up well against this Ohio State team. Another thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to run the ball. We're going to have to impose our will and we're going to have to run the ball. We can't give up running the ball in this game. Ohio State did a great job to take away the run against Clemson. And when Clemson got behind, they had to go to the pass and they became one-dimensional. Well, Alabama has to keep a good measure of running and passing the ball in order to keep Ohio State off their game a little bit. So we got to run the ball, and then we got to set up the pass with play action passes and RPOs. And I think Mac Jones, if he would just play within himself and take what the defense gives him in this game, I believe there'll be plenty of points there to be had. And I think our defense is going to have to hang with them on offense. We can't get down on ourselves. They're going to score some points. We can't get down. We've got to be able to keep ahead just enough with our offense to give our defense enough confidence to keep playing on every play. We're just going to have to get a stop. We're not going to be able to stop them on every down, I don't believe. We're going to have to get some stops and get off the field on critical plays on third down. And if we can do that, and both teams play their best game, I still think Alabama wins this game. In my opinion, Alabama has the better team. Now, I think, can we be beat? Of course we can. I think if we play our best game and they play their best game, one or two plays can decide the outcome of this game. The question is, who's going to have the upper hand on those one or two plays? Well, there is one matchup I think we can take advantage of. I saw it on the film. I watched it. I've gone back and looked at it. I believe their cornerback, which is number 24, when he matches up against Devonta Smith, I believe Devonta Smith will have an opportunity to make some plays when number 24 is guarding him. I believe that because I saw some of the athletic wide receivers of Clemson when they had a chance to go up against him to really do a good job, and he is one of the better cornerbacks in the nation. But it just appeared that I thought that Devonta Smith was going to have an opportunity. So in this game, look for Devonta Smith by that time the Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver from Alabama to be the difference maker in the national championship game once again. He was when he was a freshman, and I look for him to do it again when he's a senior. When it's all said and done, I think Alabama walks away with a victory, and I think the victory is a hard-fought win. It's a great game. I think we're going to love watching it, but I think it's going to be a victory that we're all going to be unsettled on to the very last plays of the game in the fourth quarter. I think they take us well into the fourth quarter, and Alabama comes out on top. My prediction right now is Alabama 48, Ohio State 31. Alabama 48, Ohio State 31. Well, that's all we have this week on the DC Capstone Report. We appreciate you tuning in and listening to us each and every week. Lance and I really appreciate it. Be sure and check out Lance's sites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com for some really good content on Alabama football leading up to this national championship game against Ohio State. Well, that's all this week for the report. This is DC with the DC Capstone Report, signing off with a big Roll Tide.